तो वेलकम तो आज भी मैं ही करूंगा ना.
Sir, I'll start the session. I'll just invite you then.
Yes, yes.
Just like we did last time.
Sir, good evening. Sir, good evening.
Ma'am, we good to go.
Good evening. We all are going to get on air.
So I'll be starting now.
Yes, yes, please.
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you in another very interesting and very informative session of ACP India Case Files, a John Tucker Evergreen Award-winning series, which has been instrumental in updating our knowledge and perspectives regarding recent advances in medical sciences. Today, we have two very interesting sessions and a panel of renowned experts who will address all of us. But first, please join us in welcoming our Governor of ACP India chapter, Dr. Anuj Maheshwari, sir, who is the torchbearer and a true visionary for early care physicians. I would invite sir to say a few words.
Thank you, Preeti. It's really wonderful feeling that today's case clinic is being done by me, and I am the presenter, not the screener. So I'm really feeling very good, and I have been in my 30 years before life, that when I used to do this kind of the things very frequently. So it's really giving me a very nostalgic kind of the feeling, and it's taking me into my old days. With this, definitely the second part is also going to be very exciting. Dr. Alok Modi, who is a well-known clinician of the country, will be telling us how do we do the statistical analysis. Actually, from ACP platform, it is our endeavor to help the clinicians in whatever way they want. Nowadays, we are looking that research is getting a backstage or backseat in our country. So that's why we are providing one or another thing which can improve their research efficiency, and statistical analysis on the Excel sheets is really that kind of the things which does not require much funding, that does not require much amount of the money to be indulged, and you can do much work in least expensive. So that is the way through which we can do the things. Small research can be done very easily, can be analyzed very easily on the Excel sheet. And as a first part, you all know, much appreciated. Most of the time people says that this is actually a thing which gives them enlightenment, especially the early career physicians who know and who get to know what kind of the difficult things has been faced by the previous generation clinician, those who are as KOL nowadays. So this would be a good learning for all early career physicians. With these words, would like to Amit to say a few words too before we start the program formally.
Thank you, sir. We are in the month of ACP International meeting, which is going to happen soon at San Diego. And it is really an honor for the ACP India case files to have the governor himself presenting the case here and leading right from the front and showing the way with an example. So without wasting much time, I will request Dr. Preeti to continue with the proceedings.
Yes, sir. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Arvind Kumar, Additional Professor, AIIMS, New Delhi, who will be moderating today's session. Dr. Arvind Kumar is presently working as Additional Professor, Department of Medicine, New Delhi. He has a clinical experience over 15 years with 160 publications in renowned national and international journals to his credit. He has a number of awards. He has twice won the Epicon Original Paper Merit Award, the prestigious Atal Swasth Bhushan Samman, KB Sharma Trophy for Best Contribution to the Corporate Life of MAMC. He has special interest in infectious and tropical diseases, sepsis, immunology, sonography in bedside clinical medicine, and clinical stewardship. Now, I would invite Dr. Arvind to kindly conduct the sessions. Over to Dr. Arvind.
Thank you very much, Dr. Preeti, for those kind words. So I'm really excited to be a moderator of one of the most beloved orator. I mean, I have seen him speaking everywhere, and we all, in best interest of time, would request Professor Maheshwari to go ahead with the case, which seems very exciting to me. The name, the heading, the title itself is very exciting. So we all request Dr. Maheshwari to go ahead and present the case. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Dr. Arvind, for these kind words for me, and I'm just sharing my screen. So, hope you all can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Preeti, is it visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yes, okay.
Grossly visible, sir, it's fine.
Yes, fine. So, today I am taking you a very interesting journey on a patient who has been managed, who landed on the cardiac arrest. He was the diabetic patient, later on found to be having MI, and has been managed well. After doing the intubation, he could be taken back to the normal. So let's have this real world story. A 49-year-old Asian man who was having a 1-year history of type 2 diabetes with history of vasospastic angina for which he was being treated. Body mass index was 22.1, and he was on the holidays. And he was on holidays in a very good place where a lot of facilities were there. Suddenly lost the consciousness while doing the sightseeing after having a complaint of the little nausea. When he fall down, then a history received from the companion that he had taken alcohol intake last evening. How much alcohol he has taken, nobody could tell, but it was in the substantial amount. When he has been found pulseless and unrecordable blood pressure, CPR has been given as usual. And the place where he was, a lot of good facilities were there because of what emergency medical service arrived in 5 minutes only with basic life support. And he has got an electrocardiogram. On the basis of the initial cardiac rhythm, he has been given the 2 shocks of the automated external defibrillator. While he was being transferred to the emergency units of the hospital, he has also been delivered 4 more shocks. In 16 minutes, he reached to the emergency unit. During this time, he recovered a lot and he developed a spontaneous circulation after resuscitation. When he reached to the emergency room, he was found to be having the Glasgow Coma scale E1, V2, M2, which you can understand was severe. Blood pressure was not so bad, but quite normal. Heart rate was 85, that was also quite good. Respiratory rate was little higher, 20 breaths per minute. Maintaining the oxygen saturation 100% with 100% oxygen delivery, which was being started when he was in the ambulance being transferred. ECG showed ST elevation in precordial leads, 1 AVL and reciprocal ST segment depression in lead 3 and lead AVF. A transthoracic echocardiography demonstrated hypokinesis of basal and apical left ventricular anteroseptal valve. And finally, he has been diagnosed as having acute anteroseptal MI. CT head was normal. Emergency coronary angiography revealed a subtotal stenosis in proximal left anterior descending RT under nitrate administration, and he has been performed PCI successfully, gained good angiographic results with a thrombolysis in MI grade 3 flow, finally shifted in ICU. So when he has been first reached to the emergency room, at the admission, time of admission, after 10 hours of the PCI, and at the time of the discharge. You can see the various parameters, how did they change. You could see it here that WBCs were 17,300 at the time of admission, which have been risen to 27,100, and at the time of discharge, 8,700 they were. CKMB, which is an enzyme for the myocardial injury, was towards the higher side at the time of admission, crossed the normal boundary and reached almost more than double, 66 after 10 hours of the PCI, but got normal at the time of discharge. Sodium remained normal throughout the stay in the hospital. Potassium remained normal throughout the stay in the hospital. And chloride also remained normal throughout the stay in the hospital. Glucose level also remained normal throughout the stay in the hospital, although the oral anti-diabetic agents all were stopped after the event and he has been kept on the insulin. Ketone bodies have been found to be raised from at the time of admission. We could not know about the ketone bodies, but after 10 hours of the PCI, they were grossly risen 9,185. At the time of discharge also they were high. As far as the pH is concerned, it was low at the time of admission, kept on low even after 10 hours of the PCI. Arterial PO2 was normal at the time of admission, even because patient was on the oxygen, but was lesser in the after 10 hours of the PCI. PCO2 was also within normal range throughout the patient has been checked when he was in the hospital. Bicarbonate ion were on the lower side at the time of admission also and at the time of even after 10 hours of the PCI. Lactate level remained normal throughout the hospital stay. So when he has been spent first 24 hours in the ICU, blood pressure remained very well maintained. Lactate level, as I said, remained below 2 millimole per liter, means that was remained in the normal limit. The patient developed a high anion gap metabolic acidosis with the evidence of ketonuria, ketonemia, the relatively low blood glucose level in spite of the severe ketoacidosis. Urine analysis showed that ketone was 3+. Now question arises whether this ketoacidosis was the cause of MI or was the effect of MI. Before going into that discussion, better we should know what the treatment the patient was already being taken. Before having this problem, patient was already taking aspirin 100 milligram a day, isosorbide mononitrate 20 milligram twice a day because he was well-known patient of the vasospastic angina. Nicorandil 5 milligram 3 times a day, benidipine 4 milligram twice a day, amlodipine 5 milligram daily, pitavastatin 1 milligram, metformin 500 milligram 3 times a day, miglitol 50 milligram 3 times a day, linagliptin 5 milligram a day, and epragliflozin 50 milligram a day. Possible causes of diabetic ketoacidosis, if we go into that discussion, largely we have our mind towards the MI because that was the most drastic event. Probably everyone could think that this acute MI could lead to that patient towards the cardiac arrest also. Acute MI and its subsequent circulation collapse probably might have taken the patient into a diabetic ketoacidosis. That could be the one possibility, but not the 100% sure possibility. There may be some other possibilities too. Patient was taking the SGLT2 inhibitor. There was chances that it could induce the euglycemic diabetic ketoacidosis, which led MI, as diabetic ketoacidosis can precipitate MI because of its prothrombotic environment, because of its hyperviscosity it causes in the blood circulation. It also increases the coagulation activity because of work, the chances of getting MI would be more. And more importantly, what we know that it is a thing which causes or contributes the endothelial dysfunction to coronary vasospasm too. So what the evidence are there which takes us to the final diagnosis. Initial laboratory data, which were taken approximately 1 hour after the onset, demonstrated a pH of 7.25, mean in the acidosis. This pH was on the acidic side, lower side. A bicarbonate level of 13.4, which was also on the lower side, and a lactate level of 1.2, which was normal. The low levels of the pH and bicarbonate ion in the early phase indicate that acidosis had already developed before the onset of acute MI. In addition, the maintained blood pressure and heart rate when the patient has been brought to the emergency room, constantly low lactate level during his clinical course makes it less likely that acute myocardial infarction and subsequent circulation collapse caused the acidosis. What the treatment patient received, he has been stopped of all anti-diabetic medication, including the SGLT2 inhibitors, and kept on the insulin only. Fluid replacement has been given. Bicarbonate ion replacement has been given. Shortly after the discontinuation of the sodium bicarbonate on the 24th hour or after 24 hours of the treatment, the acidosis again worsened temporarily, but it did not require further bicarbonate supplementation. It improved on its own simply by giving extracellular fluid replacement. No anti-diabetic treatment required in the first 24 hours other than insulin. Emergency coronary angiography revealed a subtotal stenosis in proximal left anterior descending artery under nitrate administration, which was most likely to be organic stenosis. And for that reason, the PCI has been done. These are the pictures of the angiography where you can see it here that this is the angiography picture and this is the post-stenting angiography. Chain of events to recovery. CPKMB level declined with a peak level of 83 units per liter 24 hours after PCI. So, as I already shown you in the table that CPKMB initially was low, later on it gone up to the high and then again came down to the normal when the patient was discharged. Patient was able to respond to simple verbal orders on post-PCI second day. Patient has been extubated after 70 hours of PCI, almost third day of the post-PCI. He had weakness in all extremities and hoarseness, but no disorientation or dysphagia was there. On post-PCI, means it was day 4, with his white blood cell count of 12,000 per microliter and C-reactive protein level was 23.18, which signifies the delayed inflammation in spite of aggressive antibiotic treatment. He underwent a contrast CT, which revealed a hepatic subcapsular hematoma in the caudate lobe caused by chest compression during cardiopulmonary resuscitation. This also explained the elevation of the liver enzymes as well as the discrepancy between CK and CKMB. Now question arises, how do we reach to this idea that probably SGLT2 inhibitor caused this diabetic ketoacidosis, not MI caused it. In fact, diabetic acid ketoacidosis resulted into the MI because SGLT2 inhibitors having this tendency, it lowers the glucose independent of the insulin that we all know, and that low glucose further reduces the secretion of the insulin. And at that same time, once the glucose goes the lower level or goes down, then it augments the glucagon level. which in turn accelerates lipolysis and beta oxidation of the fatty acid, leading to ketogenesis. It implies that patients with low insulin secretion are not good candidates to receive SGLT2 inhibitor. And this particular patient had a potentially low insulin secretion, which we could know later to the HOMA beta less than 38% at the time of discharge, and took alcohol a night before this all happened, which also put the patient into the transient hypoglycemia, which may have contributed to the development of the euglycemic diabetic ketoacidosis. So this is the explanation, or whether it is right or wrong explanation, it's a matter of discussion. But many a times we always think that this kind of the things happens in our day-to-day practice, which may be unbelievable. So Lord Buddha has said that believe nothing until unless you see by your own eyes, even it is said by me. Me means it is said by Buddha. He has said that even if something has been said by me, you should not believe it blindly until unless you are agreeing with your own reason and your own common sense. So this is the thing which is very much required, and we should always be kept in mind whenever we are going through our day-to-day clinical experience.
I think, I mean, a very pertinent and a very excellent case. This is a kind of an eye opener to all of us clinicians, more so PGs, the residents, because we are using SGLT2 very frequently nowadays. And I find the last slide was the best slide, because best bedside clinical medicine is that only that we have to apply all of us, I mean, in a very dynamic manner. We cannot be relying on something unnecessary to add up with something which is not very well explained. So we have to keep thinking what is being missed and what is the missing link between the case in front of us. So I really congratulate Professor Maheshwari sir for presenting this case in such a nice manner. So most of the things are very clear. I would just like to know, sir, one or 2 points from my side. So we all of us are using this drug very frequently. So in my query, how common it is with this euglycemic ketosis with SGL2? And second, I will put here only that besides SGL2, is it again common with in case of diabetes, where patients are not being put on this inhibitor? So these 2 questions from my side, sir, please.
Actually, Arvind, we have heard about this euglycemic ketoacidosis more commonly when SGLT2 inhibitor has been started being used. Before that, probably we were not talking much about the euglycemic ketoacidosis kind of the thing. We were talking very much about the ketoacidosis, diabetic ketoacidosis, even starvation ketoacidosis were being in the usual conversation. But rarely we have ever discussed euglycemic ketoacidosis. In fact, as far as the SGLT2 inhibitors are concerned, it is an incidence of euglycemic ketoacidosis is 2.6 to 3.2% is seen in the SGLT2 users. But it does not mean that it doesn't happen those who do not use SGLT2 inhibitor. It is seen with other anti-diabetic agents also. But SGLT2 inhibitors are the anti-diabetic agent or the molecules which are having almost twice incidence of euglycemic ketoacidosis as compared to other anti-diabetic agent overall, excluding the insulin. So this is a statistic which is already available about this ailment. Anything more?
So I do understand, and this message goes very crystal clear to all of us that this mechanism of SGLT2 inhibitor causing osmotic diuresis, and because it is insulin independent, so the work of insulin taking glucose inside the cell and then getting the metabolism, it is not happening. So we can all imagine that the mechanism is very well explained. So and the incidence is not, it's a handsome incidence, 2% to cause this ketosis. So that should be kept in mind, though it's a kind of a rare presentation, but I will request all the audience that it should be in our mind when you are using these drugs. So if time permits, Dr. Preeti, can we take one or two more questions? Dr. Preeti, please.
Yes, actually, yeah, I'm looking over to the chat also. If you also keep an eye on the chat box if there is any question comes from any side of the from any audience side. But one thing should always be kept in mind. Many a times, whenever a new drug comes to us, we always look forward and we always run behind that, and we always think that this is the miraculous thing what we have received. No doubt, SGLT2 inhibitor is having multiple advantages, but it must be used. Choosing of the patient rightly is most important thing. Many a times, India is a country where we get the multiple varieties of the weather across the year. We sometimes we are having the too hot weather, sometimes we are having the too cold weather. So whenever it is a hot season like June, May, June, we should be very much careful that patient may not be having dehydration whenever we are starting this medication to them. And rest of the things are also involved and they should always be taken care. For example, if we are giving the SGLT2 inhibitors and we are trying to reduce the glucose level, at the same time, patient has also consumed the alcohol in a good amount the previous night. Then probably the things are going to be more and more exaggerated in that way. So there are multiple hands. I am seeing that Alok is having a hand raised. Taria is also having the hand raised. Amit was also having the hand raised. So over. So one by one, you can ask whatever you want.
Sir, I wanted to ask one thing. Now this patient is we know that there was a complication because of the SGLT2 inhibitor. We also know that patient had MI. Now this patient has established atherosclerotic disease. And we know that SGLT2 inhibitors, they are known to have some benefits in preventing the recurrence of any cardiovascular event. So how do we go about this case now?
Yeah, very good question. In fact, this question has been arisen after this patient has been managed, because actually SGLT2 inhibitor has been made for these kinds of the patient, those who are having the congestive heart failure, those who are having the poor cardiovascular strength, and they are having their compromised cardiovascular activity. But in such situations, we should be very much careful even in these patients also. Whenever we are using this kind of the whole mechanism I have told you, whenever you are using this kind of the molecule, you should be careful. It never means that this kind of the patient should not receive this kind of the molecule, because whenever this molecule has been started to the patient, that patient was not in that kind of the situation. Patient was not in the acute stage. Usually, we always say to our students also that whenever the patient is in the acute stage of the MI, at that time SGLT2 inhibitor should not be started. If you want to start when you are discharging your patient, at that time you can add up with that. So this thing always should be kept in mind. SGLT2 inhibitor is very good medicine for the heart patient, for the patient those who are having the compromised functioning of their heart. But always, anytime, anything can happen, and we should be very much vigilant of the various circumstances which are coming across at one place and affecting our patient. Alok.
Sir, would it have been possible had he not taken alcohol, maybe he would not have landed up like this? Because SGLT2 inhibitors cause dehydration. They're after all diuretics. And we tell our patients regularly that you must take increased water intake, especially in the summer season if you are on SGLT2. And alcohol itself is a potential dehydrating agent. So maybe the two added up. I don't know the literature, but suppose SGLT2 inhibitors, patients are not on alcohol. I don't know if this would not have happened. If that is the case, probably we need to warn our patients, you should avoid alcohol. That is one thing, sir. And second thing is, I would also like to know if there's a class difference, depending on, is it a sort of, this can happen with any SGLT2 or is it a different mechanism with different SGLT2s? Because
this
patient
can
was on a
happen
drug
with
that
any anti-diabetic medication, not only the SGLT2 inhibitor. Any anti-diabetic medication can lead to such kind of the situation if they are working more than what they want from us.
And SGLT2s are more in favor, the pipe versus pump theory, they are more suitable for a heart failure, especially the preserved ejection fraction. Whereas GLP agonists are more favorable for the coronary, the pipe part, which Dr. Vaishnav had postulated in the debate trial. So going forward for what Dr. Amit has said, would it be a better choice to shift this patient to a GLP after he is having undergone a revascularization, or would it be prudent to continue him on an SGLT2 or both?
In fact, this kind of a patient should be continued on the SGLT2 inhibitor when he becomes all right, but he should always be given the instruction that he should be very much careful when such kind of the symptomatology is coming up, like he is feeling some nausea kind of the thing, he is feeling something which is more requiring he should not consume the alcohol. Many times we think that if this would not had happened, then probably this not happened. But actually, this is the combination of the circumstances which takes us to certain kind of the outcomes which we see in our patient. It was the mix of the weather, mix of the alcohol consumption previous night, mix of the over control, and maybe nobody knows, he might have missed the breakfast or taken the little breakfast in the morning because he was having the nausea. He has complained of the nausea. So once a person is having nausea, then probably might have taken less breakfast, and that again contributed in his low glucose level, which further increased the activity of the glucagon, reduced level of the insulin, and further these things have gone in that way which were not supposed to be. So both the mechanism are quite different, for which we are thinking that SGLT2 inhibitors could be beneficial. That is a absolutely different mechanism through which it is helping reducing the congestive heart failure, while it is causing this, that is absolutely a different mechanism. Dr. Daria, आपसे
Yes,
कुछ
sir. Yeah, good evening, sir. Excellent case presentation, sir. One thing I want to say, because I have seen this slide where you have mentioned the treatment of that patient. I think treatment is totally, it's not up to ethical treatment, because he was put on the amlodipine. At
Yes,
that,
yes.
he was put
I
on the
was thinking that
vancomycin.
you will
He
say
was
this.
ill, and
Somebody will point out this thing.
yeah,
But
the
whatever it
treatment
was, it
itself,
was.
no, but in that case also, sir, where the both the CCBs you have done, given, where you have given the miglitol, that is the alpha glucosidase inhibitor, where the metformin, the all cause can be. And regarding that SGLT2, Dr. Amit and Dr. Alok is okay that it also helps in the plaque stabilization. So I think the treatment itself is was also behind that, this euglycemic decay. Along with the SGLT2, we can keep a one option of SGLT2. Otherwise, the miglitol, the both CCB which we were giving, that can also land up with the decay.
Yes, yes. That I already said that many, all anti-diabetic agent, whatever we use orally, they all can land up these kinds of the situation. Not necessary that SGLT2 inhibitor should be there, but SGLT2 inhibitor having the twice rate of incidence with this euglycemic ketoacidosis as compared to the others one.
But what was
yes, yes.
why they were giving the two CCBs again in a single patient?
Nobody knows, because the patient, once the patient comes to you, he is be taking, and who is giving him for what reason. It is very difficult to go into the path. Patient is not necessary where is being treated. He is in the follow-up case of the same place. He has got some emergency at somewhere else, and he has been treated. He was visited there. He was from some other country, visited there, and he was lucky enough that he has got such kind of the situation in US kind of the place where he has been getting the all the facilities so swiftly and so fast, then he could be well managed. If he could be facing this kind of the things in India, probably it could take more time, may or might not have survived. Dr. Vermani, without your comments, it is incomplete always.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
It was an excellent case, and there's a lot to learn from these cases. See, euglycemic decay is relatively very rare, but we have to be very pharmacovigilant.
Yes.
And even though the use of SGLT2 inhibitors has brought it to the fore, we know it can be caused by other anti-diabetic drugs. It can be caused by in pregnancy. It can be caused in young people. And even myocardial infarction is known to cause euglycemic ketoacidosis in
Yes,
patients
yes.
with diabetes. And now, since he has had a euglycemic ketoacidosis, maybe because of the resultant MI or whatever it is, we don't know. I would not prefer to use it again in this patient. I would prefer to use a GLP-1 RA, preferably because that would be more anti-atherosclerotic and safer, and to prevent further euglycemic repetition of this euglycemic ketoacidosis.
Yes.
Otherwise, it was quite surprising to see that despite cardiac arrest and so much of resuscitation, he never developed lactic acidosis or, I mean, I was surprised why lactic
Yeah.
acidosis has not developed.
Lactate remained quite normal, and though
Yeah,
he was also taking the metformin
yeah,
in very good amount.
yeah. So it was very interesting. A lot of
Yeah.
lessons to learn from this case.
Yes.
Excellent case.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
think Dr. Riaz has a question.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Riaz?
How often to check ketone levels on patient with SGLT2 inhibitor? I don't think that every patient of the SGLT2 inhibitor should be checked for the ketones. We should not check for the ketone, but you should always keep an eye over the symptomatology of the patient. If the patient is having that kind of the symptoms, like he's having unexplained nausea for some reason and he is having some kind of the giddiness, then in such situation you must screen the patient for all these possibilities. It never means that every patient should be kept for this. Even euglycemic ketosis and ketoacidosis, again, these two are the different things. If it is ketosis, probably it is not going to harm. But once it is ketoacidosis, it is going to be harmful. So always be very much careful. Ketosis is not going, if you will check ketones only, you will come to know about only about the ketosis. But we are more concerned about the ketoacidosis. So we should look for that.
I think so. There is three things very important when we are using SGLT2 inhibitors. One, of course, is the judicious selection of patients. Second is being pharmacovigilant. And third is giving good instruction to the patient regarding genital hygiene and hydration. If we follow these, it's very unlikely to see patients with euglycemic ketoacidosis.
Yes. And one more important thing, that patient should also be asked to take the enough amount of water.
Yeah, hydration. That's what I said.
Hydration should always be kept intact if we really wish to avoid these kinds of the incidences.
Absolutely right.
Sir, in this case, apparently it looked like MI occurred first, which then led to ketoacidosis. So how could you reach to this conclusion that it was precipitated by ketoacidosis?
Yes, actually, this is the point of discussion. If you don't go into the details of the patient, then it looks like that patient has got a cardiac arrest arisen because of the MI, and MI has caused the ketoacidosis. Then that is the usual thing. Many of the MI also give rise to the ketoacidosis. But once we go into the chain of events, we see that at the time of the diagnosis, at the time of the patient has got the cardiac arrest, and when he has been brought to the emergency room, he was having low bicarbonate level, he was having low acid, he was having the acidosis at that time, low pH at that time, and this gives an idea that probably the acidosis has started occurring that time. It did not come after a MI has occurred or as a result of the MI. Second thing, it has also been mentioned, I also mentioned in my presentation, the way the patient recovered and he has been maintaining his blood pressure about 136/90 and pulse was 85. This was not looked like that patient had an MI, because if the patient had an MI, that probably must be in the tachycardia, not 85 pulse may be there, and blood pressure might have also been on the lower side whenever the patient might have got the MI at that time, and after the PCI it could get recovered. So these are the things which gives us this insight that probably ketoacidosis occurred before the occurrence of MI.
Thank you, sir.
that appears to be more logical. See the coronary, they were quite clean, if I am not mistaken, except for one single stenosis, the entire coronary was. So if he's a diabetic for a long time, we expect a atherosclerotic disease overall in the coronary, which was not there. So probably it was more of a. I feel he had taken alcohol. The process, the pathophysiology may have started in the evening, and this could have been sort of a vasospastic kind of a feature which has progressed to so-called MI, and he got treatment on time. That explains many things. The only thing which Rani sir said is very right is like, how come he didn't have lactic acidosis? With so many drugs on board in metformin and euglycemic ketosis running, we expected lactates to be a little on the high side with so much of acidosis running. I mean, the acidosis was quite profound. And MI would not precipitate acidosis. So I think it was a metabolic pathophysiology leading to a vasospastic kind of a feature.
Yes,
That's what I feel. I may be wrong. All the more reason that this person probably does not have a lot of atherosclerosis. So probably we do his retinal scans in the future. We check for his peripheral vascular disease, Dopplers. We check for his microL, if it's positive or not. We'll get a much better idea as to his atherosclerotic status. And then we can probably figure out what would be the right kind of therapy to be given in the long run. But I feel this whole thing has got precipitated because of summer season, and probably a lot of alcohol has caused over here.
yes.
And there are too many drugs on board, so it's very difficult to pinpoint what has actually caused the whole
Right,
pathophysiology.
right. It's really difficult. That's why it is a big case which has to be presented before you.
Yes,
If
yes.
the diagnosis could have been very simple, probably it might not have been so presentable. So that's why I kept it before you. It never means that all patients, those who are using the SGLT2 inhibitor, they should always be screened for the ketosis or ketoacidosis. But we should always be watchful, like Dr. Vermani said, we should always be pharmacovigilant whenever we are using any medication in our diabetic patient. And most important, whenever the SGLT2 inhibitor is being used, ask the patient to keep hydration well.
So I think the messages given by this case are very well taken. And the comments of Dr. Modi is also, I mean, we all agree with that. So what I feel that during the process of resuscitation, it was very optimal, very good. So tissue hypoxia probably didn't occur. So that is the reason I feel probably lactatemia didn't occur. So that is something which seems to me at the outlook, because the patient was managed upfront rightly very well from the beginning. So in the best interest of time, I would seek permission from the other chairs that we should go to the next speaker, because if you keep hearing Professor Maheshwari, it will take the next session also.
Yes.
So may I request the next speaker, Dr. Alok Modi, who is a consultant physician in Jupiter Hospital, Kevalia Hospital, and Dr. Modi's Diabetes Center. So he has been a faculty to many organizations, and he's a fellow of ACP. He's a fellow of Indian Society of Hypertension. He is ex-faculty of Shivaji Hospital, Rajiv Gandhi Medical College. He is a certified diabetologist from ADA. He has many publications to his name in international and national journals. So I would request Dr. Alok Modi to go to his talk, which is, I think, very relevant to all of us, because all of us use Word Excel in our data collection, data compiling, in our research. So if you could enlighten us about how you can analyze our data on Word Excel. So it would be very handful and very good experience. So thank you once again, Professor Maheshwari, for your case. And then over to you, Dr. Modi, please.
Thank you, Arvind sir. First of all, I'd like to give a very warm thanks, and I feel very honored that I've been invited to sit among such stalwarts, the organizing committee of ACP, to giving me this opportunity to present this talk today. I feel very honored and blessed. And speaking after Maheshwari sir makes it very difficult for me. So I'll try to do the best I can. And sir, thank you for a very lovely case. It was really very eye-opening, and it helps us judge our clinical decisions more prudently when we start prescribing. Like you said, blindly prescribe nahi karna chahiye. We need to be more prudent when we see our patients. So today's topic is a little different topic. And I always said that when I presented this as an RSSDI research retreat, it's like asking a physician to do appendectomy, because I think most of us don't do biostatistics. We have our own biostatisticians who are professionals who do a much better job than we do. And this is something which I would go more on Excel in. Over there when Dr. Sahaya was moderating, and demand from the public was I took more of how to do Excel in your day-to-day life with these kind of statistical experiments. And Excel has a lot of inbuilt tools and some limitations. And it acts as a wonderful tool for doing some kind of a data analysis of small groups. So when we are running certain trials, we are running certain data analysis of our own patients. We do not have a big N number. We do not have a huge robust thing. So it works very well when you can use Excel rather than you end up buying commercial softwares for doing biostatistics, which are very expensive, run into 2.5 lakhs. And they're actually professional softwares which are meant for doing work when you're doing an actual RCT, multicentric RCTs in a big plane, and you would be doing it at a much higher scale. So this works very well for your day-to-day practice and your limited data analysis and small publications and presentations. So it's there at your house. And I'll start the screen share, take you directly to the Excel thing that I'm working on. And then I'll just take 5 minutes to give a little comparison between the commercial softwares and what Excel can do. So is my screen visible here?
Yes, it is visible.
So I'll just delve into some basics of Excel. Now, this is a dummy sheet which I have created. There are some dummy patients here. Around 100 dummy patients are there. And I'm focusing more on diabetes patients here. And I'll show you certain basic features which are available in Excel to take care of these things. Before we jump into that, I'd like to tell you some basic tips and pointers of Excel which are relevant to us. And like it's very well known, if you read any Bible and you join any coaching classes of Excel. And similarly, if you're using an Android phone or an iPhone, they very classically say that 80% people hardly use 20% features that are available. So a lot of things are available at your own fingertips at a very cheap price, but we don't end up using it. So for one thing which I want to tell before I delve into it is when you save a file, so when you're using it, you can save a file like this. You save it, you can save it wherever you want. You can give the path on your hard disk or on your pen drive. But this is an area which we don't use. This is my mouse visible that I'm jumping my mouse?
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible. It's visible.
My cursor jumping to the audience?
Yeah, it's visible. Your mouse is visible.
Yeah. So this is OneDrive. Now, when you buy what I would like to say here is before you jump into Excel, one should buy Excel. Now, how do you buy Excel? Obviously, it comes as a package with Microsoft Office. Now, if you buy Office as a standalone version, which gives you Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook and all that, first of all, it comes complementary with most of the laptops and branded PCs that you buy. The student version comes complimentary. You don't have to pay a single paisa, but we're not even aware of it. If you're buying Office, you end up paying 20,000 to 30,000 rupees for a standalone version. It cannot be upgraded. It is valid only for 1 year to 1.5 years till Microsoft releases another version, and it does it every 2 to 3 years. And it's locked. So the moment you install it on a piece of hardware, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, you cannot shift it to some other PC. It will not allow you to do that unless you want to pirate it. The other thing, the way I go, is to buy a subscription model. The moment you buy a subscription to Office, you're legally entitled by Microsoft, depending on what plan you go. You can go for the family plan, you can go for the student plan. Generally, the most preferred is a family plan. And a family plan gives you power to install Microsoft Office in 6 hardwares legally. So whether there are 3 of them are Mac, or 3 of them are Windows, or 5 Mac and 1 Windows, or 6 Windows and 0 Mac, your choice. You can install it in any OS of your choice, and you can install it on 6 computers legally. And suppose your computer is getting damaged, you want to discard a laptop and buy a new laptop. You can, of course, go into your account, remove that hardware by its MAC ID, and get the license approved to the next hardware. And you can do it yourself. You do not have to approach your vendor or Microsoft. Right? Not only that, it gives you liberty to install and edit your files, all the files, Word file, Excel files, and all the files on unlimited number of tablets and mobiles. Now, that is something which we don't know. So the moment you buy a subscription, you can edit and install your entire Office on 200 tablets, 200 mobiles. Normally, you get it if you download it from Google Play on an Android phone or from Apple Store if you're having an iPhone or a Mac. But then they are not editable. You have a license, you can edit those files on the fly. We call it on the fly. So when you're giving a presentation, when you're working, when you're traveling on a flight or something, you can edit the files, which you can't do if you do not have a license. And the number of tablets and mobiles on which you can install is unlimited. There is no end to it. This is all legal, allowed by Microsoft. Third, very important, which I showed you just now, is you get 1 terabyte of cloud space free of cost by Microsoft. That is called OneDrive. So 1 terabyte is a huge space where all your documents can be naturally stored. So whatever PowerPoint, Excel, Word you're working on, all that data can be shifted to your OneDrive automatically through this the Office command center that you have over here. And the beauty of this is like this. Let me try to make a guinea pig out of Amit sir. Now let's say Amit sir is giving a lot of presentations. He's coming to Delhi. He is obviously from Delhi. Let's say he comes to Mumbai to give a presentation. And after coming here, he realizes his pen drive has got corrupted or his laptop is malfunctioning or something goes wrong. Now he's at a loss. How do I give my presentation? So if you're having a subscription of this Office, you need not even carry your laptop or your pen drive. You need not carry a single thing. You can directly store your presentation or all your Excel files. If you're working on the commercial side, you have a lot of data to present, whatever data you have in your OneDrive. And the moment you come to the venue, you can ask the presenters, the host, the organizers to give you their laptop or their computer, whatever they're using. That computer need not even have Office installed on it. So you just fire up any browser. Either you fire up your Edge browser or a Chrome browser or a Mozilla browser, whatever is your choice. Get into your account, log into your account, and double click your presentation or your Excel sheet, and it will run in the latest version, the latest format, with all whistles and glories as you were working on your computer. And the audience will not even realize that you have not got your presentation over there. You can data lock it, and after that, once you close your browser, not a single piece of data is left on the host computer. So your data is absolutely private and secure. You're not sharing your data with anybody. Not only that, this 1 terabyte of space that you're getting, you can share it with 5 or 6 of your families and friends, and each can be allotted a space which can be password protected depending on you. And that cloud is shareable with so many people, and all this data can be interchanged within the cloud through a browser. So all these facilities are available. Now, what kind of cost are you paying for this? It hardly comes for 325 rupees per month. Now, that's dirt cheap, and that is giving you a legal license to get all these facilities. Now, how do you get it to 325? If you go on the Microsoft website, after paying GST, you'll end up paying some 500 to 520 rupees. So what you can do is, when there are a lot of schemes running like Diwali Hangama, Republic Day Hangama, and all that, you can go to the websites of Flipkart and Amazon. They give you at least 10 to 20% off. And if you're using an HSBC card or a HDFC card or whatever schemes are coming out with SBI card, a lot of the schemes are running, you get another 10% off. That works out to some 300 or 250 rupees per month. And you can buy the entire year's subscription in one go. I have bought 10 years subscription in one go. I have locked all of them into my account. So my Office is protected for the next 10 years legally without any price bumps if they can occur in the next 10 years. So those are the advantages you have if you have a subscription-based model, and it is auto-upgraded to the latest version without you being aware of it. And you get all the bells and whistles and all the latest statistical formulas that you want to use keep getting poured in by Microsoft, and you can use all that if you go by this model. So this is something which I wanted to tell you before we go ahead. And now this is a dummy data where I want to show you how you can run the biostatistics. Now the biostatistics that I will be covering today is a paired t-test that I've got some data here to show. I would also be covering the Pearson's correlation. I would also talk about the chi-square test. I'll try to cover them. They're a little complicated and I don't think I have so much of time. But before we jump into that, I'd like to show you some basic fundamental statistical analysis that you can do on a simple analysis and formulas that you can do if you have a data sheet in front of you. Now look at this. This is a data where you have serial numbers of your patients, patients' IDs, age, HbA1c values, their gender, and the kind of health. Now this is a formula that I have put in. I'll just show you how this formula works. Now another thing, certain tricks that we should know is, now this is the 110 patients we have. Suppose I have 1,230 patients. I want to put 1,231 patient here. And I've got another 500 patients. So I can't keep typing. It will waste a lot of my time. So the moment you take your mouse here, bring it to a crossbar and drag it down, Excel is smart. It will fill up the things as a copy, right? You don't want a copy. You want it serially. So write fill series. See what happens? You get the entire series here. Now, Excel is very smart. Suppose I have I want to have even figures or odd figures. So I write 1, 2, 3, 1. The next thing I write is 1, 2, 3, 3. The next thing I write is 1, 2, 3, 5. Now see what happens. The moment I drag this down, only the odd figures come. That? So I want to put even figures here, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2. Okay. Let's only the odd things come. See that? So before we work with statistics, we should also know what kind of data we are dealing with. Now, the kind of data that you have is over here. You have different kinds of data. You have number, you have currency, you have accounting, you have date data, you have time data, you have percentage, all the data analysis features are here. Now, suppose I'm entering a number here, 1, 2, 3, 4. This could be a date. This could be a plain number. This could be a text. This could be a currency. Now, once I put 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a general data. The moment I make it currency, you see that rupee sign, I get a rupee sign over here. Now, this rupee sign is not dependent on Excel. It is dependent upon your settings where you give your time and your location in your computer. So in your laptop or your computer, you decide what time and region are you working from. The moment you choose India and you choose the time of your computer, the corresponding currency comes here. So if you tell your laptop, means you tell your Windows or your Mac OS, okay, I'm working as a US resident or I'm trying to work in US, then a dollar sign will come here instead of a rupee sign. Now, suppose I want to write today's date is 21st April. The moment I write 21/4, it makes it 5.25 because that is a currency. The moment I convert it into a date, sorry, if I convert it into a date, see how it happens. Now, today's date is 21st April. So I write 21/4. So it becomes 21st April. I can do some better things here. Each data analysis, I can go into format cells. I can choose the details of each kind of data, the way it has to be presented. So currency can be given in 2 decimal places or 10 decimal places. Accounting can be done in n number of places I want with different kind of symbols that I want over here. I can do it here. Even if I'm working in India, I can get dollars to be running here. I can choose the time in month, hour, AM and PM. I can choose the date with that day also. So I can choose this format. And instead of 21st April, I get Friday 21st. So what happens is the moment I choose this format, I make the same format coming down for these cells because I'm going to work here, right? I delete this data because I want to enter different data, but my format has got copied in the background. So the moment I write here 24 May, see what happens. The moment I write 30th September, see what happens. So the day comes automatically. So it helps a lot when you're entering the data, you're collecting your patient data. You don't have to type in everything. Just write the day and the month and automatically Excel takes care of everything provided you tell him what formats I want. Right? Now let me go to some basic analysis. Now this is a patient whose age is 32. He is a male patient. His HbA1c is 5.50. Right? Now, I want to know whether all these HbA1cs are having a downward trend or an upward trend, or are they healthy, average? I know from my medical literature that my HbA1c should be between 6.5 to 7 for it to be a well-controlled diabetic. Let's see the trend of these HbA1c. So what I do here is I click on this data. I go to this conditional formatting, and there are different kind of tools available over here. Now I can choose this icon set, which will tell Excel to tell me whether this is an upward trend or a downward trend. I can even choose a scaling format. So see, when I choose a scale, see, you can see live things happening here without choosing the one. It will give you sort of a bar analysis, whether it's going up or down. You can choose a data bar. See, depending on your data quantity, the bar comes. Suppose I choose this color and I choose this bar. This is 5.50. Suppose I make it 15.0. You see the kind of grading that happens, it goes up much more. So the moment you choose this kind of a data analysis and you copy this kind of an analysis into the other graphs, can you see how the graph runs? It gives you a visual impact of how your data is moving as you're collecting the data, right? Now let's come to another feature here that you can use. Now, this is the kind of a thing I got for a icon. I am more comfortable with this kind of an icon where I can get an upward and a downward trend. So I chose this icon. Now, what kind of rule have I decided to get this icon? So you can go over here. You can go for manage rules. Now, the rule that I've chosen here is the cell value should be between 6.5 to 7 for me to get an upward icon or a downward icon. That is, if I'm choosing a color coding, I'll just show you that. For this kind of an icon, the value that I've chosen is this. The rule that I'm taking is if it is less than 67%, then give me a straight arrow. I'm sorry, with the values above 67%, give me an upward arrow. If the value is below 33%, give me a downward arrow. If it is between 33 and 67, give me a straight arrow. I can change these values here depending on what I want. And having done that, I get this kind of an analysis. Now, I want to see the trend throughout my collection of all my data. So rather than type it individually, Excel can copy this. Now, the moment I copy this down, my values get copied. I don't want that. I want just the conditional formatting to get copied. So what I do is I click over here, and this is this wonderful tool in Excel called as Paintbrush. When you click over here, it takes the entire formatting that you have and you get it down into every data that you're applying to. You see that in one shot, I got my analysis. So beautifully and so quickly it is being done. Okay. Now, let's go a little further than that. Now, I want to find out whether this person is a healthy male or an unhealthy female, or an unhealthy male or a healthy female or an unhealthy female. So I need to define my criteria. And this is where formulas come in. So I'm not taking you to the word of formulas, which is a wonderful feature of Excel. And mind you, there are 50 to 60,000 formulas in Excel, and you cannot know everything. Not even the biostatisticians or even an Excel expert knows everything. So to learn those formulas as and when you work with Excel on the fly. Now, I've created a very complicated formula here, and I'll show you how I've created it. It took me half an hour, but I could create it and I could get it done. Now, I've got one criteria that the sex should be female, age should be above 35, and HbA1c should be between 6.5 to 7. That is one criteria. The second criteria is the patient should be a male patient, age should be above 35, and HbA1c should be between 6.5 to 7. And the third criteria is it doesn't fall into these categories. So if it is not in this category, it is an unhealthy person, like over here. If it is a female patient but fulfills these criteria, it is a healthy female, and so on. So I get unhealthy female, unhealthy person, healthy male, unhealthy, and all that. Now, so you can see the kind of health I have got over here based on these criteria. Now, how did I design this formula? Now, if you look at this formula, it's a little, like they say in presentation, it's a busy slide. So this is a busy formula, right? So there are two formulas in action here. There is an AND formula. There is a IF formula. This we call as a nested formula. The AND formulas are nested into the IF formula. Now, these are logical operators. They take into the logic of your command and they give you output accordingly. So let's split this formula. I'll just explain how this formula works. So it says that if C2 means this is the address of the cell. Before I go into that, see, in an Excel, the convention is this is a cell. Everything is like a cell. And all the cells together make up one sheet. So this is Alok sheet 2. So you can have multiple sheets, and all the sheets together give you one workbook. And the heading of this workbook is what you name, you store your Excel files, right? So the file that I've stored it here is dummy file for Alok, right? So this entire workbook has got multiple sheets. Each sheets have got multiple cells, and each cell has got a unique address. So now the address of this cell is what? The address of this cell would be L13. The address of this cell would be L14. The address of this cell would be G12. So you have to work on formulas with the addresses. Now, let's look into this formula. Now, when I'm working on this formula here, I'm saying if the cell, the data which is in cell C2, which means this data, right? This data. If it is more than 35, which means I'm telling Excel if the age is above 35, and the data in cell E2, which is this, if the gender is female, then the value should be true. And you should write true in this cell, G2. But it is saying it is false. So what it does is it looks into this condition. If it doesn't work into, it comes into this condition. The condition here is the cell, the data in cell C2 is above 35, and the data in cell E2 is a male. Then you give another true condition, which is a healthy male. That is what you will give if the condition is true. If these conditions are not met, then you give an answer, it is an unhealthy person. So there are three AND formulas working here, 1, 2, and 3, and they all have worked into a logical formula as if. So if tells the Excel that you combine these three conditions, find out whatever is running and give the appropriate answer. So this is running first, then this is running, then this is running, and then if comes. So the sequence which it goes is here. So I'm getting an unhealthy person here because the person here is less than 35. It's the HbA1c is 5.5. Suppose I make the age here 45. See what answer I get? I get unhealthy person. Suppose I make this age as 35. What answer do I get? I get unhealthy person. Suppose I make this HbA1c as 6.8. I get unhealthy person. But the moment I make this age as 40, I get a healthy male. Did you see that? See how on the fly it changed the answer? So whatever data you're giving, you can make a template and put all the formulas here. And then as you enter your data, what I mean to say is, you think of the logic, you think of the protocol that you're going to follow in your trial or your study. You put that trial there, put some dummy, work it out. Once you're satisfied, remove this kind of data collection here, just run the formulas as it is, and then start entering your data on your patients. You will start getting your answers immediately. It's so simple to do. And now I've got these answers. Now I want to know how many unhealthy persons are there, how many healthy males are there, how many healthy females are there. Rather than sit and do a lot of complicated formulas here, I just click this entire column. I go to a filter. I create a filter over here. See this? Once I create a filter, here is something that you can see. See, you got the filter has been created. This arrow has come here. I click over here. Now I get these types. Now I choose what I want to choose. I want to choose only healthy males. I'll be more chivalrous. I want to choose only healthy females, right? So I want only healthy females. Once I choose that, I want to sort it out from ascending order. Okay, so I give the command. See, I get only healthy females at the top, I get healthy males below, and I get all unhealthy persons at the bottom. So I can figure out immediately how my data is running, and I can choose these 4 data and segregate it out, and I've got the data of only healthy males, healthy females, unhealthy person. So within less than probably 1 minute, a collection of data of 110 patients could give me a lot of information over it. Not difficult to do, very easy to do. Similarly, I can run filters on female, male. I can run filters on age. I can run filters on HbA1c. I can give a command here. Give me those people whose HbA1cs are only between 6.5 to 7. Let me show you how to do that. Now let's see this patient's data. It is 6.64. Now I give a conditional formatting here, which tells me, give me a rule, which is a between rule. And I choose this between rule. Here, I want the format to be between 6.5 to 7, right? And if it is between 6.5 to 7, this cell should be highlighted as a green cell with a green fill. So I give that command. See, it became 6.64. Now I copy this command everywhere. So I do this paintbrush thing and I run it here. See what happens? See, I run this paintbrush thing here. Here, see what happens? Okay. This doesn't happen here because I've given a command to give only healthy people, right? So nothing happened here. Now I can add another command here, which is conditioning formatting, highlight cell rules between. Now I say that if the HbA1c is 7 and if it is, let's say, 15, then what do? I give it as a red text with red filling because that's a dangerous value. So I get this, but nothing happened here. I copy this command, I bring it here, see what happens. Saw that? So the moment I take this command, I run a paintbrush across my collection. See what happens? I get my data very clearly sorted out to me in 2 minutes. And I want to know which are the data which are unhealthy. So what I do is I put in a filter here, See this? Now it says filter by color. So I want only the red filters, which are the font filters. And I want it to be filtered by fill also. And I want it to be sorted out from largest to smallest to largest. See how my data has got sorted out so beautifully. So that? So it has removed everything else. So what you see on board is all the 6.5, 6.2s are out. So you can see the serial numbers. A lot of data is out here, but I'm getting a filter of only unhealthy and uncontrolled diabetics. See that? So I'm interested in this data and I can run my biostatistics on this data. The other data has been hidden from my view. So some basic work over here can give you a lot of information right now, but this data is not lost. If you remove the filter, your data will come back to you. So all my data has come back. I can rearrange it the way I want. So I just wanted to show you some basics over here. I showed you some formula. I showed you how to work on Excel. There is a lot that you can do. You can manipulate and permute it the way you want. You just need to get comfortable with Excel. So much analysis you can do on your own. without going into biostatistics, a lot of information can be collected, streamed out, screened out, and segregated out into another sheet. So whatever analysis I did, I could just copy this and paste it into another sheet, which I can create over here. And that data that I get over here, I create another sheet here. I copy this data. Let's see. I'll show you what I mean. Let's. Okay. Let's go back. Let me give you the. Okay. I'll just copy this data here, right? This much data as I want to segregate it. So I'm going to another sheet over here. I create a new sheet which I created over here. It's a blank sheet. I just copy. Now when I copy, the formulas get automatically copied. So there are different paste features available. So this is pasting it with the formulas. This is pasting only the values without the formulas. This is pasting only the formulas. This is pasting it in a transpose fashion. So the x-axis get reversed to the y-axis. You don't have to type it again. So see, when you're working with age and value, when you're working with geographical location, age and value, when you're working with 3 variables, this kind of feature is very useful and available because you can move around with your data in a different way. You can do the formatting copy and you can link. So you can copy one workbook to the other workbook. You can copy one sheet to the other sheet. And the formula that you put in one workbook can be transposed into another workbook. So all this can be done in a jiffy, in a fraction of a second by using these commands, right? Okay. Now I'll go into biostatistics. I think we'll get late. I'll jump into the biostatistics part. Let me start with the basic biostatistics.
I request you, sir. I request you to be kindly brief and crisp. That would be helpful to all of us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Now let's just run the pair t-test. Now pair t-test is a kind of a biostatistics which looks into comparison of two samples which are compared as per a particular logic in mind. So there are two hypotheses, the null hypothesis as we all know. So we say we look into this whether the blood sugar levels have increased or decreased after the intervention of a certain drug. So it's the same sample size from the population and we want to work out on two hypotheses. So if the blood sugar levels are not changed, so that's the null hypothesis. If they say, no, they have changed, that is a null one hypothesis, which says that some intervention has occurred, which is statistically significant. So we have these values before intervention. We have these values after intervention. We need to collect their averages first. So here is the average that I've already calculated. Let's calculate and show you. So you always put in an equal to sign. Whenever you put in a formula, put in an equal to sign. You start typing AVE. This is where you get your average. Double click on it. Till you don't double click it, the Excel doesn't recognize it to be a formula. Now it is asking you automatically what range you want an average on. So you collect the range here. This is the range. Close the apostrophes and you get your average here as 127. Now similarly, I want an average for the after intervention. So I need not type the formula again. I just side click it, it automatically understands that I need to collect the data after intervention. I got the average there. Now I want standard deviations on both, right? That is how my formula works. So to calculate the standard deviation, I don't have to go into that complicated square root formula, which is meant for standard deviation. I put in an equal to sign here. I put standard here. You get the standard deviation here, double click it. It tells you to give the range. So I give the range here, close the parenthesis. I got my standard deviation. Did you see that? It has got rounded over here. Similarly, for the next thing, I got the standard deviation here. Anyway, so now this is a count. My data size is 20. So I can give a formula here, which is COU count. And you can choose the range again and you get your count. Okay. Now the confidence interval we want. Now whether we want it as a 99% confidence interval or a 95%, depending on that, you will have to choose your formula. So I'm giving you a confidence here. Let's choose the confidence formula here. It is asking me for alpha. So whether it should be 95% or 99% is how we want to design our analysis. So let's take it as 95%, so 0.05. Put in a comma, choose the standard deviation here, give the address of that, and my data size is 20. So I put that, close it. I got my confidence interval is 11.80. So having got all this information, I can directly run into a pair t-test and find out whether my data is significant or not. So I put this here, I put the t-test formula here. I choose a t-test. Now see, it's such a wonderful formula. It tells you to choose a t-test between these two data analysis. So I choose the first set before intervention, give a comma, choose the second set after intervention, give a comma. Now, do I want it as a one-tailed distribution or a two-tailed distribution? I would prefer a two-tailed distribution in this scenario. So I choose, double click it, I get 2 over here. And now what kind of an analysis do I want? I want a two sample equal variance analysis, I wanted two sample unequal variant analysis, or I wanted as a pair t-test. We wanted to do a pair t-test. So we put in a formula here, we close it, and we got our value here. So it's 0.00048, which is roughly 0.0005, which tells me that my data intervention is significant. So whatever medicine I've given in this sample group, it has worked significantly. So my data is significant. Now, how do we convert it into a graphical format as I've shown over here? Now, this is how you convert it into a graph. So you choose the average here, right? Having selected that, you tell Excel, I want to insert a graph. Now, there are a lot of graphs which are available. You have pivot table graphs, you have map graphs, you have column graphs, you have bar graphs. Which is the right graph? What will give you a better analysis? Excel will tell you here. You don't even have to use your brains to do that. Choose a recommended graph. It gives you three kind of recommendation graphs. Either you can have a clustered column, you can have a clustered line bar, you can have a pie chart, or you can have a column bar. So I would prefer a clustered column here. And the moment I choose that, I get this graph. So I can compare the averages here. I got the graph here. Having done that, I want to see the standard deviations on my graph here. So I select this. I go for the chart element. I go for the trend line here. And I choose standard error, standard deviation here. The moment I chose that, it automatically fixed my standard deviation here. If I click on the standard deviation here, I can choose the values here. Now I'm going into a little deeper into if you want to see. But here you can fill in the range of the standard deviation, which again I will get from my data. And having done that, you get kind of a standard deviation highlighted over here. And then you can put in this before intervention, after intervention, get a graph, and your entire data analysis is here ready, telling you what has happened after intervention of the drug. And it is a significant intervention. Your t-test is complete. It's ready. You can use this data to publish it in a paper. This could have been possible with the classic statistical analytic tools, but this is something which you can work on a small data without spending any extra money. You could get all this running. So if once you're comfortable with this formula system in Excel, and you can understand what formulas to apply where, you can run a lot of analysis at your bedside very comfortably, very simply. You can apply the ANOVA, which compares for three different kind of a data analysis. You can also run the linear regression. You can do the Pearson correlation. See, in the same data set, you can do a Pearson correlation. Having put in that formula for Pearson correlation, you can do this trend line, which tells you that more glucoses are increased after the age of 35 to 40 years. There are few people who are having high glucose below the age of 35 to 40 years. You can do a linear regression analysis. You can also do a chi-square test. Now, chi-square test formulas are very complicated formulas. There are a lot of square roots which are involved here, but you can directly put in a chi-square formula here. This formula is inbuilt into Excel, and you can run the entire analysis. If you want, I can do it now if time permits me, but it will take a little longer time for me to do it. One more point before I go into all this is, these kind of formulas are available by this analysis toolpath, which is not available in Excel when you buy Excel. So when you go into the file part, you go into the options part, it is over here that you have to add in manually. Otherwise, it is not given by Excel by default, even if you have a licensed version. So go into the add-in part, go to the manage add-ins part, and go to this part. Here is where you get your analysis toolpath and solver add-in. Select this, click OK. And then when you go to your data chart over here on the right side, you get these data analysis and solver. When you do that data analysis over here, you can see all the kind of statistical tools are available to you. And over single factor, two factor, correlation, covariance, ranking, t-test, sampling, all these kind of data analysis is possible with Excel without a commercial costly software. Coming to the next question, what are the limitations of Excel? What all can I use, and where do I stop using Excel? What are the other softwares which are available here? So the software which are available in the market today are your R test, the R software, the S. One second, let me show you the problem. Make it more clear. Do I have time? Do I continue? Or do I stop over here?
So I think, if you could sum up most of the things is very good to all of us. So if you could sum up, because the gist that you should get, that what you can do from Word Excel.
Okay. The gist is that Excel is something very good when you're having a small database. You cannot run it with 2,000 or 4,000 patients. Second thing is Excel cannot give you graphical analysis inbuilt. The commercial softwares will create all this create the graph, run the analysis. You just have to choose, I want to run a paired t-test. All this glory and function, standard deviation and everything comes to you automatically. You don't have to manually run all this, which I've run right now. Third thing is huge amount of data analysis creates a lot of errors. Excel, the possibility of error is high because it is totally dependent upon you. Whereas the commercial software with the biostatisticians use have a lot of error analysis removed from them. So when you're doing that, there are a lot of warnings which are there, which they will guide the biostatisticians. You're making this error, you're selecting the wrong data type, your data format is incomplete. All those features are not there in Excel. So Excel has a lot of limitations because it has not been designed as a biostatistical tool per se. Those are commercial software which are designed primarily for that, right? So you cannot compare a Mercedes with a probably a Vento. But this is something which is very easily and very usefully available to all of us when we are running simple case studies or simple data analysis from our own real life practice. So suppose you want to analyze your 500 patients of diabetes as a horizontal analysis, a real world data analysis before you're coming for a presentation. You need not buy a commercial software. You can do it live. You can do some basic analysis and come to some senses, and you can present that data in an Excel in a graphical format. So Excel has got that advantage. The commercial softwares like Prism, R software, these softwares come not less than 2 lakh to 2.5 lakhs. So that is something I think we will not be buying them for a day-to-day use. And we are not the people who are qualified to do biostatisticians. We are clinicians. They are more qualified to run the show. So the purpose of today's talk and the purpose of this can be best served because we are clinicians. We are putting our fingers into something that doesn't belong to us. It's like before I gave the talk, when Makar sir invited me, I said, sir, you're asking a physician to do an appendicectomy, So I'm trying to do something which is not my cup of tea. I hope I've done justice to it. But this is something we all can do
I feel
beautifully.
I mean, it's a more than justice, I would say. It is such an informative tool. I never understand this that what Excel can do also. We always look for Stata, we always look for SPSS, and we go to our statistician all the time with our Word Excel to do something. But from today's, I can experiment now onwards with my data, and I can play with them so that I can extract something. So,
yes,
so
Dr. Arvind, the reality is this: key. See, if people who are attached to institutions, they have a statistician on board. You can approach him for every 10 patient, 20 patients analysis. People who are in private practice and who are not working on institutions as a full timer, they have problems because how will they run there? I mean, you have to pay a lot of money to a statistician to run your show, and you have to wait till he finishes his major work and like he'll do only 100 patients analysis for you. You end up paying much more if you want to publish a case report or something. So this is where you can actually work up on your own, create your own paper, publish your own case study, and you do it at your hand. And getting your hands dirty yourself gives you more pleasure than getting your hands dirty through somebody else. How the adage goes. So this is where it helps, and I will be
Anand sir
taking
wants
this
to
in
say
the
something.
subsequent
Yes,
lectures.
yes.
Alok,
Anand sir want to say something.
I really believe that we should invite you again and we should give some more time to you so that we can be more benefited, better way from you. Actually, this program has really been the value addition for our knowledge and especially with what has been done by you. And it could be definitely it is a cup of tea for us also because for every small thing we cannot be dependent. We cannot go to the statistician to get the thing. And if we want that research should be a habit of all the clinicians, then we should make them learn it all these small skills so that they could be more easily adapting these things and more easily can do the uh, small studies and they can be easily published. Even our medical school and medical students should also be given this kind of information more frequently. So definitely this is not complete. I believe that I must plan one more program with you and whole 1 hour would be dedicated with this activity. So we look forward for that kind of the program, but this is not my closing remark. Closing remark would come from Amit. I am just have been quite excited after listening your presentation, so I just gave it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the kind words.
Yes.
If I'm not being arrogant, I just wanted to share one thing. I suffered the way, like you said, it's very difficult to get professionals on board for your own practice. So I struggled and I learned this the hard way by reading books, and my entire hospital, all my publications and all my hospital software has been designed entirely by me single-handedly without an IT guy in between. I've spent a lot of nights, burnt a lot of midnight away, but today Excel is helping me with a lot of my financial calculations, my loan calculations, my patients' monetary aspects, my discharge cards and my presentations and my publications. A lot of work is being done on Excel by me. I have my hands dirtied very badly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I invite Dr. Amit Gupta, sir, to speak a few words and propose a word of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti. And sorry, I am keeping my camera off because I am in a poor network area. But I heard I was there with the entire presentation, and as rightly pointed out by Dr. Arut sir, this program definitely needs one more go with a much more dedicated time for this. And I think it opens a new window for us where we are able to look into the Microsoft Excel as our very good friend, where we can do a lot of statistical analysis. And as rightly pointed out by Dr. Arvind, that we can play with our data and we can find out something new with that. And the first case which was presented by Dr. Anand Maheshwari was again a very good learning for us and all the early career physicians, I guess. And with this, I would like to thank Dr. Arvind for his wonderful moderation, Dr. Anuj Maheshwari sir for the excellent case presentation, and Dr. Alok Modi for a very, very insightful talk on the use of Dr. Preeti for leading this program. And with this, I would like to thank all the faculties, all the delegates who were part of this program. And we will be back with the next program next month, another episode of ACP India Case Files. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.